What's up, everyone? Alex here, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. I did not have a plan for this video. I didn't write anything down, but I thought it was really important that I bring this topic back up because I've been fixated kind of on the wrong gender concept. I had a couple videos where I talked about the gender trinary, and I talked about atrinarity, meaning being outside of male, female, and neutral, and I made a big a big spectacle about identifying with atrinary concepts, and the fact of the matter is that the gender trinary model kind of throws non-binary people under the bus, and it throws anybody who is far outside of the gender binary but does not consider themselves to be non-binary. It also throws them under the bus as well, and it really is not a non-binary friendly model. It is not an inclusive model, and honestly, it's queer people that came up with this model. Society came up with the idea of a gender binary, male, female, or masculine, feminine, but particularly the gender binary refers to being male or female, and it is based on recognized and legitimized genders in society. In Western society, we have male and female as recognized and legitimized genders, meaning that anything outside of that is typically excluded, or there is violence against people who sit outside that model, whether overlapping with it or being far outside of it. Even people who are in between those two without being either of them. So non-binary people who still have some kind of connection to the gender binary. Like, the binary model exists for a reason, not to make sure that we are including men and women in our activism, but as a sort of like a construct invented to tell you, like, you need to fall into one of two of these concepts. You can be a man, you can be a woman. Some people might say you can be both or in between or fluid between them, but that ignores genders that are outside of male and female. When I was talking about atrinarity, I had this vision in my head of a trinary model of male, female, and neutral, though neutral is a gender quality, not necessarily a gender, so it is probably more accurate to say male, female, and epicene. But in my brain, there was this trinary model, and then my experiences outside of that being atrinary. And the word that I was actually looking for was Outherine, which is outside of male, female, neutral, masculine, and feminine. It can include masculine and feminine qualities. Obviously, you can be of any gender and experience, masculinity or femininity. But it is an abinary concept, far outside of male and female, that also isn't neutral, and it's not genderless. The trinary model includes neutrality and sometimes shoves genderlessness into that. Sometimes it's more of a four-point model where it's male, female, androgen, and some kind of neutral or some kind of genderless. It doesn't help that we have the term neutroi, which encompasses both of those things. But no one has ever gotten the gender trinary model right, whereas the binary doesn't have that flexibility because it is an established, legitimized system of genders that you are expected to follow and to fall into categories that you are expected to fall into. So the gender binary is not a good thing, whereas the trinary was come up with as a way to include genders, to expand on the binary. It acts as an extension of the binary. You can either be one or the other or this third thing, and everything gets shoved into the third thing. Sometimes it's male, female, non-binary, which ignores the fact that a lot of non-binary people relate to the gender binary. There's non-binary men and women, and there's people who reject the term non-binary. They don't want their label to relate to the binary at all. So even abinary, meaning entirely separate from male and female, even that, people call it aphorian instead, as a way to get rid of the binary out of the name, because people don't want to be associated with the binary. But I failed to realize that people don't want to be associated with a trinary either. It's still another gender construct that was come up with. It wasn't, the binary was created with not the best intentions. The trinary was created with the best intentions, which doesn't really matter because it still acts as something that excludes people and kind of creates a new construct. Early on, when I first became involved with the neo-label community, coining new terms and stuff, I'd seen someone point out that we had all replaced the binary with a gender trinary instead. And I thought that this was a bad faith take because I thought the gender trinary was a legitimate model that existed that needed to be recognized, and it just isn't. Any kind of discrimination or bigotry against non-binary people, that is called exersexism. I've never said that out loud, so sorry for stumbling over it. But exersexism is violence or bigotry or discrimination against non-binary people, and the trinary model is an exersexist concept. So I've come to, adopt saying Outherine instead of saying a trinary. So I have a lot of essays that I wrote explaining what the gender trinary is and how I relate to it. I can still relate to the idea of being outside of male, female, and neutral, but I need better terminology. So Outherine is an abinary gender, or gender quality, and Maverine or Maverique is an identity that sits outside of that as an autonomous abinary gender. I've been replacing my language by saying abinary or Outherine instead of a trinary, or within the trinary. I've been trying to stop explaining things in that way, and I can't do much about the videos that I have up. I can obviously delete them, but I think it's better to make an example of myself and say, hey, this is wrong. People should not be following this model to, there's no trinary. There's the gender binary that enforces a gender construct onto Western society. And then there is, and I say Western society, I am also including colonized society. Not Western as in the indigenous people that live in the West do not follow this binary construct. They didn't come up with this. So what I mean is the colonized West. Western ideals that were enforced on indigenous people and are still enforced on anybody who lives in a Western society. It's expected that you are male or female, and anything outside of that is not recognized or is punishable, even at best. So, there is no trinary. There's so many people who are not male, not female. They might consider themselves neutral in some way, but they don't want to be tied to this construct as if being a third point on a graph, as if there's equal distance. There's plenty of people who are neutral who feel far outside of the binary. There are people who are neutral who exist within the binary, and everybody has to be recognized in this way. We need better ways of explaining. There should be no binary, trinary. If there were a trinary, it would act as the gender construct of a society that recognizes three distinct and legitimized genders. And maybe there are some societies that do recognize, but this is legal protection. This is, you can get a gender marker to reflect this, or, be recognized medically, financially under this third gender, but that just doesn't happen. I brought up this conversation in my Discord server, and there were some good points made. I'm not the best at articulating, so I responded a lot with links to posts that were talking about how it's not okay to recognize a gender trinary, because there are people who are being left out, being forgotten, being pushed to the side, or even like roped back into this trinary. Like we came up with, we had this like gender binary, and there are people who existed far outside of it, and then we came up with a trinary and pulled them back and decided, no, you're gonna fall under this concept. And I don't think that was very fair of me to try to legitimize that idea. So that's pretty much it. I have videos where I explained what the gender trinary model is and what lies outside of the gender trinary model, but I am no longer standing by any of that. If anything, the language needs to go. My excuse was that it was my own personal experience that I was talking about. Like, in my brain, I have my own personal trinary of male, female, and neutral, and definitely not female, but I'm on the male and neutral side of that graph. But there were much better ways for me to explain my experience, even if it's explaining an experience that I have that doesn't, I'm not trying to compare to other people's experiences or, tell people that they fall into my own personal view of my gender. Sorry about that. I still needed to update the language that I was using and do a better job at explaining myself. It's been a year of gender discoveries, or at least like the last month has been filled with gender discovery. So upon reflecting on this and adding it to the memoir that I'm working on, that talks about my coming out as bigender and my experiences with gender over the last like 20 years, pretty much. I kind of realized that there was a better way to talk about my experiences. So discovering these things about yourself can really help. But you don't have to be trans or non-binary or Maverin, or you don't have to have a specific gender experience to know that the language you're using is not appropriate or inclusive, that it might be problematic to use. That happens to anybody. The most gender non-conforming, gender queering person in the world might accidentally use language that is harmful, or imply that there is a construct to gender that people have to follow, whether they're aware of it or not. So, I have to be aware. Everybody has to be aware of how we're navigating this weird gender thing without forgetting people, without leaving them behind, excluding them, marginalizing them. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to... I had another video planned for today. I think it's the 15th of July. I had a different video planned, and I was like, no, I need to push this forward into an earlier spot in my schedule so that I can actually talk about it, because I keep linking to... newer videos of mine have been linking to videos about the gender trinary and then about atrinary concepts. So I needed to kind of pull it back and revisit that, so that I can deconstruct that and denounce those viewpoints. That's it. I'm realizing that this video is longer than it needed to be, but it didn't need to be a video of excuses. It needed to be a video of accountability. You're not a bad person for recognizing the idea of a gender trinary and wanting to compare your experiences with that model, but you are perpetuating harm. And, we do that without realizing it. That doesn't make it any less big of a deal. just always be aware of, I'm so sorry for that sound, that's the guinea pig. But we always need to be aware of how we are talking about ourselves and about other people. And sometimes in talking only about ourselves, we kind of imply that we are not inclusive of other people. So that was kind of my, that was like my experience in this, is that like I was forgetting that other people exist in this gendered world, I guess. Yeah, thank you for watching and listening to me rant. I'll probably cut this one down considerably because I just want the main points, and I just want to talk about this as an issue. So, yeah, learn and unlearn. I am signing off for now. See you later.